Today we're going to be talking about lights. Hey there, welcome back to our beginner series. If this is your first time joining us, I do highly recommend that you take a look at our website or head over to our YouTube channel and check out some of the other great videos that we already offer for beginner photographers. Today we're going to be talking about lights. Now, this is not how we light our subject, it's not where we place the lights, it's the actual physical light and the system, as well as a few modifiers themselves. So we're going to dive in just a minute, but first of all, let me say that everything that you hear in this video today is based solely on my opinion. All right, so I'm going to go in order from my least favorite lights over the years to my most favorite. Unfortunately, the ones I started off with, I do not have those in studio. I actually just got rid of them, gave them to another photographer who was just starting out and wanted to experiment with some of the lighting. So I don't have those in studio, but they are the continuous lights. And the first ones I found were just a cheap set off of eBay. I think I got 4 different lights, and the little light boxes, I think they were yay big, not very big at all. 4 of those, along with some light stands in a carrying bag. So with the continuous light, one of the things that like I said, I started off using these and I used them for almost 4 years. So one of the things I will say is that had I known more about lights and modifiers specifically, I would have gotten bigger light boxes, the modifiers, the soft boxes to go over those continuous lights. Like I said, they weren't very big, and I was shooting at the time in my in-home studio, a little 10 by 10 room, and let me tell you, the light was so inconsistent for me. I think just being in a place where the light changed with the windows, it was really hard for me when I would go back and post and start editing those images. So if you're going to go with the continuous light, I do recommend that you find some that have the different power levels. The ones that I had were just on and off. That's the only thing I had. So, but I do know there are some out there that give you a little bit of option and a little bit more flexibility with the brightness and the power of those lights. So look for those if you're going to go with continuous lighting. The second thing I do recommend if you're going to go with continuous is find a PLM or some kind of softbox that's a little bigger. Octaboxes work great for what we need it for, and I'll get into that in just a little bit. But as far as the continuous lighting, I don't highly recommend it unless you are just starting off, you're not sure if you're going to be in it for the long haul. Maybe you just want to experiment, maybe you're brand new to studio lighting and you just want to give it a try. I spent a ton of time in editing in post when I had the continuous lights, just because it wasn't the right temperature of light that I needed, and I didn't have that option to either raise or lower the light based on my environment. So I'm going to do a kind of a rating system today. So 1 being the worst, 1 star, and 5 being the best. I would probably give the continuous lighting probably somewhere around a 2 star. Okay, so for our next light, we're going to talk about the Alien Bee. Now these are pretty popular. They're fairly inexpensive. I know they've also come out with what they're calling the Digi Bees. I have no experience with those. I've heard they're a little bit of an upgrade from the Alien Bees. But again, I can't speak to that specifically because I've never used the Digi Bees. The Alien Bee that I actually have 2 of them. And like I said, I used them for probably about 4 years. I have the 400s. Now, as I said previously, at the time I was shooting in a small 10 by 10 space. If you have a smaller space, you really don't need anything over the 400. I wouldn't recommend the 800 unless your space is pretty large, or if you are doing more creative shoots like outside or on location or something like that, then I might recommend the 800. But even in my larger studio that I have now, I was using the 400 and it was fine. I will say that was when I was photographing newborns. Sometimes when I would do a cake smash or do family sessions, I'd have to bring in my other 400 and kind of light from the other side. But as far as just having a small studio, shooting newborns specifically, the 400 should be great for you. Now with your Alien Bee, you definitely have more control over the power of your light as opposed to a continuous lighting situation. You do have a slider here that goes all the way up to full power, or you can drop it down. You also have a modeling lamp, which is great for when you have lower light situations. You can turn on that modeling lamp so it'll help your camera focus. So again, just having that power control is a lot better than just the continuous light where you have maybe one or two options. All right, so let's talk modifiers. This right here is what we call a shoot-through umbrella. There is nothing on it that kind of stops the light. It just goes through this fabric and diffuses it nicely. So somebody once explained light to me kind of like water. So if you think of light like water, what this is going to do is, so let's say you have the sink on and you put a colander under the water, the stream of water. So what that colander is doing, it's not really stopping it, it's not channeling it so it goes in a certain direction, but it is slightly diffusing it so that it kind of breaks up just a little bit. That's what the shoot-through umbrella does. You really don't have control over where the light is going, but it does soften it and gives it a nice, softer feel. The bigger your umbrella is, the softer the light is going to be. I used this one when I first started. In fact, this was my exact setup when I first got my Alien Bee, and it worked fine. It was a challenge at times when I would go when I was traveling into people's homes to do newborn shoots. It was sometimes a challenge because I didn't have control over where I wanted that light. Like I said, it just kind of diffuses it everywhere instead of focusing it in where I want it to be. But overall, I would say with the shoot-through umbrella, on a scale of 1 to 5, again, I'd probably give this setup a 3. Okay, so the next setup that I went to was this one. The Alien Bees I didn't mention are from a website. It's Paul C. Buff. And you can purchase the Alien Bees, DigiBees, or the Einsteins off from that website. This reflector, this modifier umbrella that I have is not from Paul C. Buff. It's one that I found on Amazon. But it works differently than a shoot-through. If you notice on the back, it's black. So that's going to block the light. So that now, if we go back to our metaphor of water, if you think about this as a funnel, now when I'm pouring water through a funnel, I can control it a little more where I want it to go. And it's actually going to bring that light into a more focused area. There are a couple different types you can look for, and one of the things you need to decide is the inside. Now you can get these that have the white on the inside, and then you have these that are the more reflective with either gold or silver. I used this forever and it worked for me, but I also have more of a contrasty feel to my images. But if you like the softer light, I would definitely recommend going with the white on the inside. Now with the shoot through, you point the end of the umbrella and shoot through the umbrella so the light is passing through to your subject. With this one, because the light's not passing through, it's bouncing back. You want your subject on this side so that the light is bouncing back onto them. I never used it just this. I used the softbox cover, so I'm going to put that on real quick and show you what that looks like. So as you can see with this one, it just has elastic around the side and just kind of pops on over. Paul C. Buff makes one that actually goes over your light and kind of connects here. Either one worked great. This one at the time when I was using it was a little bit cheaper, and the one that I had from Paul C. Buff I bought secondhand and it was broken, so I never did really get into using that one just because it didn't go on right. But what this does is it's going to bounce that light back through this, so it's going to soften your light when it falls onto your subject. Now with this setup, I used it quite a bit. In fact, I used it up until about 2 months ago. It worked just fine for me. Like I said, some people don't like the silver reflection inside. For me, it worked with my style. I'd say overall, I'd probably give this about a 4 out of 5 stars. One of the things that I think is important and worth mentioning again is the size of your PLM in your umbrella system. The the bigger it is, the softer your light is going to be. It's going to diffuse nicely, and it's going to give you just a softer, less shadows than you would if you had a smaller light source. Okay, so that brings us to my current lighting setup. This is the Einstein. Again, it is from Paul C. Buff. It's a little different. Hopefully you can see that. It's electronic as far as it doesn't have just the slider. You can actually raise and lower with, it's all digital. So basically it works the same as the Alien Bee. It's just a little bit nicer light. Oh, and this stand, rolling stand, is from Manfrotto, and it is amazing. Very easy to roll around. So with this is a little bit larger. It's an octo box instead of just being round. But if you look inside, you can see that it's white. It also has a extra diffusing layer in there, so that whenever we use this light, it gives a really soft, nice light. If you can afford it, go for it. If not, the Alien Bee 400 worked just fine. Like I said, I used that for quite a bit of my photography career. This one, the Einstein, I'd always heard that the lighting was so much better. And with the Alien Bee, you kind of get a red tint to a lot of your images. And I heard that with the Einstein kind of went away. However, I honestly can't tell much of a difference. It is nice, and I think the lighting that I'm getting, the softness of it is more from the actual modifier itself, not so much the light. So if you can't afford this, don't worry about it. Do the Alien Bee 400, and I think you will be absolutely happy. And then you can upgrade once you can afford to. So on our scale of 1 to 5, this definitely gets my 5 as of now. Over the past almost 10 years, based on what I've used personally. I know there's a lot of other light sources out there. I'm just rating the ones that I have used. Thanks for watching, and let us know what you want to see next.